I'm honored and very pleased that I can stand in front of you today. Thank you, dear President, for this special invitation. Dear Nada, it couldn't be a better coalition of the topics you have brought here and wrapped us together in the way that we can truly open the discussion about where the society stands and what do we have to do, each of us, to help, not only in the sports area, but also in other areas, to be equal and to live values. And I think this is the general issue we are tackling all here today. And thank you, Kari, for ending with research and education, because this was my jurisdiction for the last 3.5 years. I'm now back full professor at the Faculty of Economics, where I also teach sports marketing, and I'm a true believer in sports values. And I'm one of those ministers who said to our teachers and professors, why shouldn't we teach a lot about the life through sport? Why? Because sport is discipline, sport is dedication, sport is hard work, sport is motivation, sport is trying to go even beyond yourself, is trying to set new and more limits. But sport is also what you, the two athletes, exposed before. So what we have to do, all of us, to bring us together as a society and the values of this society in the way that there will be no harassment, that there will be no bullying, that there will be no, however wrong, tackling of each other. And I'm not speaking only about women, I'm speaking generally in the society. I had a pleasure to meet Nick Vujicic. I don't know if you know who he is. He is a disabled man without hands and without legs. He can only use 2 toes on the leg. And he is one of the best motivational speakers in the United States right now. He had an origin in ex-Yugoslavia, and this is how I met him. And we invited him to Slovenia to talk to kids, to talk to teachers, to talk to sports athletes, representatives of different sports organizations also. And after his motivational speech, kids came to me and teachers came to me and said, well, we all know that. We just don't know how to talk about this. We just don't know how to tackle this. And this is why we are here for, to open the discussion and debate, not only to create awareness, but also to think forward, to think about the instruments, about the elements of the system, about the projects, ideas which can be breakthrough for our kids, for everyone who is now coming to this society, but with the true values, with those values in which you athletes all the time believe in, otherwise you would not be as such a top level as you were or you are still. And this goes same for coaches, for trainers, for professors, for us researchers, for educators. So society can be at the edge, not only sport. And this is what we all have to prevail. So I took the opportunity, and Nada, thank you for importing me into this, and I brought some pictures from our research area. Slovenian research and public funds are divided, of course, through different areas. And this, I hope this marks somehow. Oh, no, it does not. Okay. No. Yeah, this is it. And a bit of these numbers show us that in Slovenia we are progressing with the level of the women being involved in the research, also by different funds and different projects. But it is typical that certain sciences are still not accepting women at the level as they should be or we would like to be. And what is typical is also that, yes, some instruments and some decisions have helped us to be more progressive in certain areas, but where we are most in danger for the future development of the society and contribution of the science to the development of all of us is where and how we split the sources for young researchers. And this is the story you have actually told us. So how we tackle someone who is a huge potential and at the same time not maybe knowing how to tackle in all those severe moments where they have or you have to fight for your own stand and for your own rights. And this is what we have been talking about not only at the United Nations level, but also at the level of European Commission, of the Council of Europe. Just next week we are meeting in Tbilisi also for these topics, because we have to bring all of us, being in jurisdiction or being just so aware of the facts, the debate and the discussion of what criteria, what instruments, what system changes do we really need, that we will bring the world to the equality. I know that you might think now, oh, she doesn't really know what she's speaking about, but believe me, if there is trust in what we are trying to do, if there is fair relationship, and especially in sports, we know what that means, then we will go further. And this is the idea of research, education, and sport right now, being in Europe, very much exposed also in the area of human rights. And basically what you've talked about and what Kari talked about is the bottom ground of the human rights and equality being raised out of it. So another question is, have we done anything? Yes. In science, we stepped together and we have found out that there have been more positions of women in the science, even in higher levels, even in a jurisdiction of higher decision making. But however, if there would be no platforms for it, like ERA Roadmap or Horizon 2020 or Pilotina or RIPS or Gender Action and so on, these are all the projects, parallelly what Kari showed in the sports area, then the women's voice and the voice of young researchers would not be heard. So how can we all bring this together? We're members of the European Union. We have to deal with that issue. And we have to use the system also to help us backwards to the last school, to the last pupil, to the last kindergarten child who can be received and who can know that something is going on in the society towards the real values and towards the understanding of them. So, just speaking about Slovenia, did we change legislation? Yes. Speaking about the research area, we have involved a special committee being legislatively approved for women in science. We have done International Women's Day, and we have been an equal member at every institution right now in speaking in the science fields, no matter which science we are talking about. So why I'm talking about all this? Because each part of the society today, in each area, no matter whether it's sports, whether it's research, whether it's education, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's engineering, is focused on results. So results, and this is what Nadia so nicely put, pressure in all senses, in all terms. Every second, every moment, you are pressed, even though, if not with the results, with the information which should then bring results. So speaking about results, it means that we have to grab on the macro level what we have already here. And one of the good examples is a sport political power index being prepared by the Danish experts and Danish Olympic Committee and support to it. And it's talking about the power which is given through the sport. And if you look at the numbers, they are very similar to what Kari showed us with a graph of where we stand. By the way, Czechs and Slovenians are very close together on a lowest part of it, speaking about the sports organization and involvement of women. So we have lots to do here. And these are already developed instruments which can bring and help us to understand where we stand. And if we set ourselves the mirror, then I'm sure that everyone will start to think, okay, what does this mirror says to us? Does it say that we are standing well, that we are progressing, that there are women who would like to be active members in this society? Or are we prevailing lots of good decisions no matter speaking about the male or female or whatever gender issue here, to make the progress in the society. So in Slovenia, we are aware now that we have to talk not only in science and education, but also in all other areas about gender equality and inclusiveness. This is another word we will have to talk about and bring to each other. Are we really inclusive as the society? This is a very, very important question. And I'm sure that also International Olympic Committee and National Olympic Committees are discussing this, because it's one of the issues which will again bring the society to the test, and all the decision makers will be confronted to it. One of our doctorate students made a good research on women in sport and also about inclusiveness, but let me focus on the data in women in sport from Slovenia. Yes, they are quite commonly involved as athletes, but they are rarely involved as decision makers, as referees, as sport judges, as leaders in associations, or even at the level of the Olympic Committee, or even at the level of different national bodies who take care of sport. So why these parallels? Because we have learned something from the science, we have learned something from the education fields, because they were much more exposed in certain time. And I think we can bring lots of this experience also to the sport area. There are many instruments being already developed at the international level, at the national level, but how can we proceed with them in the way that each athlete will be aware of the fact that there is a certain body, certain person to whom he or she can talk to? Because this is crucial at the end. It's about people. It's about situations in which we unfortunately find ourselves and who to tackle. So this is the question which we need to set not only from the top down, but also from the bottom up. And thank you, Nadia, for bringing us together, because we can share good practices in this way. And I think this should be a common agenda of all of us, to try to speak loudly about what were the positive experiences, what were the experiences which can help each of you in the way to present then these experiences to other people and to bring them into the system. Slovenia is not Norway, but we have learned something from you, that after setting the quotas in your country, in your society, this is not a question anymore for quite many years. But we are, some countries, still questioning that. So it's about the time, not to question, but to do. And what is my suggestion, because that was the request, or maybe a wish at the end? Yes, the culture of equality. There are many, many instruments already being designed and developed at different levels. But do we use them? Are we active as countries, as associations, as committees, as bodies who are responsible for every area? And I know that national programs and strategies sometimes do say a lot about it, but of course then it's a question of implementation. And I think we need to encourage all of us, also through such summits and through such practices, that political wisdom and definitely legal tools help us to support. And I know how tough it is to put something through the parliament. But we have to try and try again. What institutional awareness really is, because if institutions are aware, I'm sure that people are then aware of it. And if we can do the implementation, as I say, from the kindergarten on, then we will know that we are now fighting for the real values and for the real rights, because at the end of the day, it's really just about people and it's about values. So thank you for this opportunity. I have wrapped up my different experiences from different fields, but I think that they are very challengeable no matter in which field we are nowadays. And as I said, do as much as we can as individuals, as people being responsible in whatever level of the system, not to bring society to the edge. Because this is a crucial question. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Now it's time for your questions.
I would like to ask you, since I'll be speaking about the percentage that women's sport has in the Czech media and other foreign media, I don't know about any study that would be about the Slovenian press. Do you know the percentage of the women sport coverage in your press in comparison to the men sports coverage?
From the media standpoint, is well covered. It's sometimes even 50-50 or even more, even in favor of women. But what we were lucky in was that actually the women were really, really top leaders in certain areas and in certain disciplines. And with their values, they really persuaded everyone that it's worth it to believe in sports and support it. And they were great ambassadors also to the schools and to the teachers. You probably all know Petra Majdic, who won a medal breaking the ribs in the middle of the race. Actually, she fell in one of the holes at the Olympic Games, and she broke the ribs. And she's now a motivator in the schools also. We've invited her, and she speaks to different companies, to different people, to different societies. Why is this important? Because if you have such ambassadors who are true believers and who are practically experienced everything about it on their own skin, as we say, then you can also get the attraction, then you can get awareness, then you can really breathe with the athletes. And I have to say, no matter that we are not yet positioned speaking about the gender equality in Slovenian associations, but we are pushing that very much, hopefully in the right way. Slovenia is a country where sports is in our DNA. So we breathe with our athletes. Even when we come to Prague and do canoeing, half of Slovenia is cheering for Slovenian athletes, despite, of course, congratulating also to the Czech representatives. But this is where we have something very well positioned within the Slovenian society. But we do not have to lose this. So we have to work on the backgrounds, on the system, on specific elements which protect, in a way, this system. And this is where we still have many challenges.
Thank you very much.
I have a question about the sport officials, because
Yes.
we're talking about the gender, but we do have a problem, I think, here and in many countries, so to encourage more women to be active in this field. Do you have any idea so that's how to improve it?
Yeah, one of the research we did with our students was clearly showing that there are not enough women in sports organizations, that we should really talk loudly about that and involve them. But then we have had some interviews and qualitative research also, and women said that because they have so many roles, sometimes it's so difficult to cope with all of those. But what we have started in our mandate is that we have designed a double career, and it's the double career for athletes, for sports people. And what turned out was that women was very much in favor to do that. So this is what I see as a good sign that that part of population will be again a leader to next generations, to understand why it's so important to step forward sometimes, to speak about yourself. And no matter being a woman or a man, it's important that you are true in yourself and that you believe in what you are doing. And I'm counting very much that some of these instruments which we have developed will bring more women to the decision-making levels also at the associations. There are not enough yet, no. Despite that we work very well with the associations, that's definitely one of the areas which need support. And we are even a bit behind you as far as I saw the graph. So we are in the same story. Thank you.